Prodigy podcast. It's been a long season, a great season. We made it all the way to championship week, conference championship week. It's been an up and down season for us picking games. It's been an up and down season for college football teams. It's been a great season, and we finally made it to the conference championship games. The week before bowl season, the week before the Army-Navy game, and then it's the bowl season. So this is really the last big day for Saturday football.
This is the day that everyone's been looking at, working toward. Everyone wants to play in their conference championship.
So
the opportunity is only afforded to 5 or 6 different games, so 10 or 12 teams, and this is it. This is what it all comes down to.
People playing for New Year's Six bowls, people playing for the playoffs, and people playing for bragging rights.
So before we even pick that, let me get your opinion on this controversial topic. You and I have talked about this off the air. Should teams be penalized for playing in championship games for their conferences? Should a team that goes 12-0 be penalized for ending up 12-1 after, especially relative to a team that went 11-1 and wasn't playing in the championship game?
Well, I think because first off, you're all the way in the championship game. Kind of got to close the deal there. If you're, say, the number 5 team and you lose that game against, just think about it, an 11-1 team against a 12-1 team. Who do you take in that one? I feel like the 12-1 team would still be ahead of the 11.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
But I think it definitely hurts your status because you still have to get to that almost mini championship if you're playing for the playoffs. And I think that game still matters greatly
But I mean, the question in this case is very, very much on the table. My contention is that the 4 teams that are in the top 4 of the college football playoff should be the 4 teams in the college football playoff. These conference championship games are just TV events. They really shouldn't hurt you. You won your conference division. You went undefeated. If Michigan beats Purdue, that shouldn't change really anything. Is if they lose to Purdue, especially relative to Ohio State or Alabama getting in. Ohio State and Alabama shouldn't be in this playoff, and they're 5-6. And in particular, you and I said it's going to be interesting to see the rankings of those 2 teams compared to each other and if you imagine a scenario where TCU gets bombed and USC gets bombed, you're looking at an opening round matchup of Michigan versus Ohio State and Georgia versus Alabama, which nobody wants to see.
Nope.
I don't even think anyone in Columbus wants to see that. Maybe people in Tuscaloosa do, but they're maybe the only people who want to see that as a semifinal matchup.
If we played Ohio State again in the semifinal game and Ryan Day gets his butt kicked again, he might get fired after losing 3 out of his 36 Big Ten games.
I don't know if it'll happen, but I believe the Final 4 should be Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC. You could potentially flip-flop TCU and USC.
I don't think so.
If TCU gets hand-blasted by Kansas State and USC avenges its 1 loss to USC with a 3-touchdown win, I put USC number 3.
Yeah, but I think TCU has a better resume than USC. And
I don't think so.
They're 12-0.
You're telling me the Big 12 is a better conference than the Pac-12? I do not buy that at all.
No, but they've played in more big games than USC. USC played UCLA and Utah and Washington. They didn't play Oregon. They didn't play Oregon State, who beat Oregon. So they haven't gone full circle with their conference. TCU has gone full circle with their conference.
Name one impressive win TCU has had. Texas at Texas, perhaps. That's it. But we'll see. All right, so let's get into this, starting with the game that's about to kick off here. Maybe, 2 hours away from kickoff, 2.5? The Pac-12 championship we were just talking about.
2 hours away. 3 hours away. I think it's 7 p.m., but...
All right, we're recording around 4 o'clock Central Time. We got to get this done and uploaded.
Yeah. All right, so we're heading out west to USC, Utah.
Is that SoFi or where is this game being played? Oh, it's in Vegas.
Vegas.
That's right, Vegas.
World's largest Roomba. USC versus Utah. Utah beat USC at home, 43-42. Crazy game. USC looking to, as we talked about earlier, to win this game and try and get to the college football playoff. We're obviously pulling for USC, so Ohio State doesn't get in. But, as a college football fan in general, you like to see chaos. USC is favored by 2.5, trying to avenge their loss.
Am I still ahead in it? I have to go first.
Here are the records. So, kind of crazy week. You are 35-28-1.
Terrible week.
I am 34-29-1.
All right.
So, I'm down one game. The one tie was we picked the Alabama-Auburn game at 22. The final score was 22. So, 22.1 for Alabama. So, there's our one tie. I need to gain a game on you. So,
all right.
Let's get into these picks.
I go first?
Yeah, you do.
Fight on. I think the Trojans up and down the field here without the advantage of Rice-Eccles Stadium for Utah. I'm taking USC. Caleb Williams is peaking, playing the best football of anybody in the country right now. USC defense really impressed me against Notre Dame in a way I did not think that they would. I'm taking SC to win and cover.
Well, yeah. I mean, Utah knows, this is what Kyle Whittingham said. Kyle Whittingham said that if everybody is just already expecting USC to get into the playoffs, it's it might as well not show up.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really going to give them a fight.
They have that championship DNA.
Yeah, they've gone to, I think I saw 4 of the last 5 Pac-12 championships, so they've been there, done that, unlike USC in recent years. I think this is going to be a great game. I probably would pick Utah at 4.5, but I'm going to take USC at 3.5 or 2.5. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So it's a very good line.
I'd take USC at a touchdown. I mean, I think USC is going to win this game. I think something like 38-27, something like that. So we both take SC.
Right. ACC, North Carolina, Clemson. Both teams have had disappointing seasons, especially at the end. Clemson number 9, North Carolina 23. North Carolina fell after losing to Georgia Tech and North Carolina State. Am I right about that? And Clemson lost by 1 to South Carolina. So
didn't North Carolina lose to Georgia Tech at the end too? So
yeah. Clemson is still favored by 7.5. It's going to be fun to watch that defensive line trying to get to Drake May, who midway through the season was a Heisman hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'll take Clemson, even though they've had a very disappointing year in terms of where they wanted to be. Dabo Swinney is going to realize they got to hit the reset button, and they're going to go through all their reads. They're going to hit them. They're going to pound the rock with Will Shipley, and I really feel that Clemson's defense line is going to give Drake May trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Clemson probably wins this game about 31-17.
I'm going to go Carolina. I'm going Tar Heels on this one. I think motivation is a factor here. North Carolina is a program that is still building under Mac Brown, younger quarterback. Aspirations for bigger things in the future. I think for Clemson, this is a disappointing year. They were broken by Notre Dame, and to lose to South Carolina on their home field, losing the longest home field winning streak in the country. There in Death Valley. I'm going to go North Carolina to cover. Don't know about who wins the game, but I'm taking UNC. Game 3, SEC Championship game. The number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs playing. Are they playing in Atlanta again? I mean, it's basically their second stadium against LSU. LSU is a 17.5. That's going to be one of the biggest lines in an SEC championship game for quite a while. We can look that up. Bama is typically favored in this game. They're not playing in it this year. 17.5. I think that number reflects some uncertainty about Jaden Daniels' availability.
I think he's done for the year. Maybe not the bowl game if they get a New Year's Six, but I think he's not going to play this championship game. Injured last week.
Yeah, and an embarrassing performance by LSU last week against A&M. I think they bounced back. I don't think there's any threat of them losing, rather Georgia losing the game. But I'm going to take LSU and the points. That's a lot of points. I think that there's a chance that Georgia says, hey, let's win and move on. They may not have as much to play for either. I think LSU, again, they're a team hopefully ascending under Brian Kelly. I'm going Tigers.
In my mind, LSU is not going to score the football. I would kind of be surprised if they score a touchdown in this game. I see this game turning out to be a 35-6 game.
Wow.
Where Georgia just cruises.
Wow.
And A&M scored 38. You think Georgia can't score 35? And they got killed by A&M in a very embarrassing fashion.
Yeah, but picking these games is not always about what teams can do. It's about predicting what they will do.
I think
that's why the line for, Ohio State against Toledo in the opening game is always like 34 when it could be 75.
Yeah,
it's about you predicting what's going to happen.
They're not going to score the football.
Okay.
I will be surprised if they score 17 points.
Okay.
I think that Georgia cruises on offense and cruises on defense. I see this game shifting towards 35-6.
Go Tigers. Game 4. What do we have next for Game 4? Where do you want to go next? You want to go to
Michigan.
You don't want to go TCU, Kansas State yet. All right.
I'll leave that last. Purdue has had a great history, especially under Jeff Brom, in upsetting top 3 teams. Unfortunately,
especially ranked number 2 teams.
They beat Iowa. They beat Ohio State a couple years back.
The spoiler makers.
Michigan is favored by 17.
Spoiler.
Unfortunately, Blake Corum is done for the year, getting knee surgery soon.
And I think we just talked about this before we started taping. I think Vegas probably knew he was unavailable for this game too, or at least wasn't likely to play.
Yeah.
We don't know if the line has moved much since it was announced about 24 hours ago that he was having season-ending knee surgery.
J.J. McCarthy's show. So yeah, Michigan is favored by 17. I think that's a good line for 2 opposite teams.
Mm-hmm.
One of the teams, last week was, I don't want to call it a fluke because we kicked the crap out of them, but last week was a surprise with Michigan going deep a bunch of plays. But usually Michigan is a ground and pound game, and Purdue is a team that likes to air it out. I think I'm going to take Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I think if this is like their 5th championship game in the last 7 years, they're like, oh, we've been here before, we're going to win by 14 and move on. But this is still a pretty big game to them, especially after the miracle season last year and having another great season this year. I think they still understand that this is a really important game. And I don't think that Purdue, they beat Iowa last year, who didn't turn out to be great. They beat, Ohio State at home under that same system by a lot. But I think that going up against this kind of physical team is going to really cause some problems. And I think that Mike Morris is going to have a fun day meeting at the quarterback with Braden McGregor and those guys. And I think that Purdue is going to have a tough day stopping that run game, and especially that offensive line for Michigan. So give me maize and blue.
Yeah, I think that Purdue's best chance to stay within that number is just to slow the game down, give the ball to Maccabee over and over and over again. And that's just not what they're built to do. They're built to pass, and I think that Michigan, batting away Jeff Brown's quarterback, I almost called Jeff Brown the quarterback, Aiden O'Connell's quarterback, batting down Aiden O'Connell's passes with the clock stopped is going to give Michigan enough possessions, enough time. I think that they do cover the number. I've been sandbagging emotionally a lot against Michigan this year, picking them not to cover. This game, I really believe, is one of their 4 objectives, and their objectives for the year were beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, win the national championship. I think this is something that they will not take their foot off the gas, Corum's absence notwithstanding. I think J.J. McCarthy does continue to take another step forward. I do believe in this year that the stadium was going to be a pretty 50-50 split. It's effectively a home game for Purdue. So it's in Indianapolis. But I think Michigan does pull away. I think Michigan continues to develop the air game, the aerial. So I think J.J. McCarthy's confidence has now taken the level necessary to push his team to a Big Ten title. I'll take Michigan to win the game 45-23.
I like it. So now we head down to Texas, where another basically home game. TCU is going to play Kansas State. This is uncharted territory for both teams besides TCU's Big 12 championship game appearance in like 2017. But other than that, these teams have not been here in recent years. This is a top 10 matchup, ABC 11 o'clock. TCU is favored by 2.5. Especially after what they did last week, I think people, especially Vegas, just has to stop with like the 2, 3, the 4-point spread to TCU and realize that they're the number 3 team in the country right now. That's what the College Football Playoff Committee believes, and it's your pick to start, but I basically already made mine. I'm taking TCU, I think. Okay,
here's where the conversation that led this podcast comes into play for me. I think Kansas State's going to win. I've been very impressed with TCU this season. They've done everything they can. At some point, you can't win every game, though. And I think Kansas State had TCU earlier in the year, 28-10 at the half. They have the formula. They just ran out of gas. I think Chris Kleeman is a great coach. I think he feels like he's just kind of lurking in the weeds here. No one's really expecting much out of TCU, or out of Kansas State, rather, as you just said. So I think Kansas State's going to win the game. Give me the Cats. And the great debate begins. Who should be the 4th seed? I think USC is going to move up to number 3, play Michigan. And I think there's going to be a lot of hand-wringing in the course of 12 hours before the BCS, college football, playoffs.
I just think that TCU is too athletic, and you saw that in the end when Kansas State got tired later in the game. They played hard for, 35, 40 minutes, and then they just ran out of gas, and that's where TCU's athleticism started coming into play. And I think that's going to happen again. Not a crazy comeback, but in the end, TCU is just the more athletic team. They're the better team, and they're the harder hitting team. And I think that they're going to realize that what you said could happen, and this has still got to be their miracle season. So I will take TCU to cover this game. I say about a 38-28 game. TCU in the it could be 31-28, and Keandre Miller just busts one off, and that's going to be the dagger. So give me the Horned Frogs.
All right. So we've got 3 games we disagree on, which means that there is a potential for this to go any number of ways.
We can't tie. We can tie. Never mind.
If I get 2 of the 3 wrong and you get them right, then we'd be tied.
Then we head to Army Navy.
The Army Navy. Well, we'll pick some more games
podcast.
Too. All right, so that'll do it for championship week. Settle in, enjoy some great football. We also will be cheering on the Red Raiders tomorrow as they play Indiana Wesleyan. Just talked to one of the players a couple of hours ago. He's feeling pretty confident. I think this is our year. Go Raiders, and have a great weekend.
It also helps that the Mustangs lost Kaiser. So
no, you had to go there. You had to mention that. I'm the Preacher.
Prodigy.